Excellent. So the meeting is recording now. It should be. This is the training session for your new digital signage software platform, Korbyt. This is replacing the old Simon system. So just to give you an introduction, I'm Joshua Maiden. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at RMG. We will be going through training, how to add content to this system, how to update it on your signage system, and see it on the end result screens. Before we get started, Ashley, would you like to preface anything, say anything, introduce the teams, or?
Well, yeah, hopefully this is, from what I understand, this is going to be, if you're interested in learning how to make slides within the system, I think Josh is going to show us how to do that, as well as getting them scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
Just for what your daily, not daily, but however often you put slides in, this is going to be more to what your direct actions are going to be. I did want to mention we made great efforts to try to keep your slides at the 1280 by 720. And unfortunately, because we push a lot of your, some of you will be staying at that, but the majority of you have your signage pushed out through part of the cable TV system, and that distorts and misshapes the graphics. So Josh has some new dimensions for the main workspace that you'll need to make your graphics to. But I will go ahead and get everyone's players built and get your feed started with some, there are 3 COVID slides from University Relations. So I'm going to use those, and they've asked that we put those all over campus. So I will start everyone's feed and build everyone's players and get it started with those that information from the University Relations office. Thank you.
Excellent. And does everybody here have a log on to Korbyt.com? Really, the way you'll access the system is through a Chrome browser on your desktop.
I've added everyone in. I haven't checked to see, and I've given everyone a default password. So I would encourage everyone, if you haven't yet, go to Korbyt.com and update your password and double check that I've entered your information incorrectly, and if there's anything you want to complete on your profile with Korbyt. And Josh on Tuesday put up some training versions of our layout that you can practice and play around with, and as you're learning things. And after this is over, I'll be happy to do some Zoom training if you guys need it too, sort of as a brush up. But there's help articles in Korbyt, and then there's the kb.korbyt.com forums that also offers help as well. So that to me is another really great feature that's an upgrade with Korbyt from Simon.
Yep, excellent. Great preface there, Ashley, and we can just dive right into it. So once you get your login and password, you'll go to Korbyt.com. This is the main website, and you'll click enter on the top right. And you'll see you'll have a username and password field that you'll fill out with the password, username and password that you're given, and you'll log in. Just clicking the login, your page will come up with an end user license agreement that allows you to read through. Again, it's just the terms and conditions for using Korbyt. You can read through that, and once you get to the end, you'll hit accept. If you agree to those, if not, then of course you won't be joining Korbyt. But again, it's pretty standard software user agreements. So once you get into Korbyt, you'll log in, and Korbyt will be this will be your main dashboard. And again, there's a training session on the overview of all this that we have recorded and we've provided to Ashley before. So if you'd like the complete overview of everything, we can definitely get into it. But really, your main 2 tabs that your group will be using will be the media and the signage tabs. So everything in Korbyt is laid out fairly similarly. You'll see a lot of pretty intuitive design in it. You can click on everything. It'll show you, it'll expose and hide. It's pretty self-explanatory. Once you get into it and play around with it daily, you'll see that, a lot of the functionality carries through all the pages. Like whenever you see a pencil, that usually means you can edit something. So you can choose to click that, and it shows you what you can edit and hide. You can hide all these items by clicking and turning them off or turning them on. But again, this is just a main dashboard, shows the main overview of Korbyt, the snapshot of the health of your system at a glance. And this will mainly be used for your tenant admins, people like Ashley, to really ascertain what's happening in the system at that quick glance. So for your particular team, you will be using, again, the media and signage tabs. So more often than not, your process will be uploading images to display onto a certain screen area, right?
That's correct.
So in that instance, you'll access the media library. And library is your main repository for all the content that's being uploaded to Korbyt. Korbyt is a cloud-based system, so you have access to this no matter where you're at, as long as you have an internet connection and your username and password, and a Chrome browser. You can log in and access this and make changes to your digital signage system. So that's a great added feature as well. You don't have to worry about a desktop client to log into. Any questions so far?
Not so far.
Excellent. So for the main team, you'll access the media library. And as you'll see, there's a folder structure. The media library may show up like this to begin with no folder structure, or it may show up with the folder structure already exposed. But really, you want to make sure and click this to have the folder structure always exposed, because this will be where you'll be adding your content into. And as you can see, it's already broken up by groupings. Ashley and Roosevelt, the other engineer on the project, were very diligent in setting this up very similarly to what you have in your current system. And so in each one of these, you'll have additional items that you can add, or additional folder structures that you can add. And again, this feeds directly into your signage system, right? So what we'll do is you add this in, and it's ready to be used to add to a playlist, which is what's going to be the final form of how you get that content to screen. Content is very simple. You would simply click the import media button right here. And again, this page has a few items to call out. There's supported media types. You can always double check to make sure your format is correct, that you have, if it's an image, it's a JPEG, it's a PNG, etc. If it's a video, it's these types of video formats. We also accept documents for use as well. So lots of flexibility as far as what types of documents we can upload. But really, I think the main ones you'll be uploading are going to be JPEGs and PNGs, image files, to replace to your main section. So what you would do is simply browse here. It pulls up your Windows Explorer. You can find any image that you like, click and open, and you see it begins to upload. All right, when it's done, we see the little button that says done. We click done, and it's added to that particular folder. Again, we see the folder structure right here where it's adding it. So the root is always your main media library folder, and then there's subfolders within that. And Ashley has taken a real diligent effort to make this organized in a way that makes sense to your team. And I'm sure she'll probably review this with you, but we really it really makes sense to keep these files organized and kind of curated in the proper folders for your team, because again, it just helps searching. It helps all kinds of functionality inside of Korbyt. And then there's a few other boxes on this window that you can see. There's tags. Tagging gives you the ability to label this content with something and search for it later very easily with using the tag. It also allows some form of content automation, although you're going to we'll show you the process to manually schedule your items, because that's the preferred method. But you can simply just tag it training if you needed to, or something of that nature. Right. And then any copyright information that you may want to add to the image to make sure it's used properly or given credit when it's needed. Then there's also this little checkbox right here, overwrite media if file already exists. This is helpful if you're just wanting to replace an image, get it, you know, it's named the same, really, maybe it's birthdays. You just want to replace that every time instead of keep adding them as you go along. That's very easy to do. Just click overwrite, and it's got to be the same exact name, and it'll just overwrite the file as it sits in the media library. But when you're done, you'll just simply click done. And now if we were to look at our CGGE file here, we should have our new image in there. Yep, we just uploaded it. It says my time and the time that I uploaded it. Again, this is UTC time, which is a computer time, so it's not going to look, it's definitely not 2 p.m. right now, but you'll see the date corresponds correctly. But this is a universal computer time. And then again, it tells you who you uploaded it and the size of the file and everything like that. So again, easy to, in the media library, there's also ways you can crop this image. So if you bring it in and you want to crop it to say, I just want this portion of the screen or this portion of the image, you can easily do so to set it up the way you want it. And the great thing about this tool is, again, you can rotate the image. You can do all kinds of cool things with it. You can change how it sits, right? You can flip it horizontally, vertically, up and down. So just easy ways to manipulate the image properties this way you get exactly the portion that you want of the image. And if we scroll down, we'll hit save. And again, this creates a new version of this. It does not keep the same version. You see the version is here. If we're to go back, I'm betting it's through the front here. Let's see. One of these pages. It'll give it a new number, a new name to show that it's been cropped. And you'll never lose that original image. Did I hit save? And just to show you again. Yeah, it moved the image, so it's got to be in here somewhere. Here we go. So again, you'll see it's cropping as we go along and creating content. There. You can see it's still got the main name layout here, but it's got an additional set of numbers. Again, it's just that cut up section of the image that we wanted, right? It's also easy to delete content here. Yes, delete. Since we made these copies right now, we can just simply click the trash can, delete, and delete again. And then one more thing to show you on the actual image here is you'll see this additional apply filters icon. So these are pretty standard social media filters. Again, this is an entire composed layout, so it may not, be the desired look that we're looking for, but if it's just an image, right, you can bring it in and you can kind of change the way it appears if you need to. And again, when you hit save here, it creates a new duplicate copy as well. So easy image manipulation right here inside of the software as far as being able to crop, being able to apply a few filters to it. There's also a few other items to call out in the media library itself. Your team can always add subfolders if needed. You can add them here. or you can add them to the try-dot menu on each of these folders, right? If you happen to upload something in a folder that you're not supposed to, you can easily go in and drag and drop to a new folder or to any folder you want. So if we go to Dean, right, we move that to Dean. And so now if we go back to Dean here, we should be able to find our image that we moved. Where'd it go? Oop. And again, Ashley's taken a lot of the content that's already pre-existing and brought it in. So she's done a good job in bringing all that stuff in, but here's our main layout that we drug into the Dean folder.
Josh, I'm going to intervene and say that these are the 1280 by 720, so everything I've brought in isn't going to be used unless you they're able to resize it to the dimension. And what are, you sent them to me, but just for the, what are the new dimensions?
Sure, 1 second, let me get that pulled up. So the new main window dimensions are going to be 636 by 511.
And Norma, I sent Debbie dimensions yesterday, and this is updated information from that. So 636 by 511. Thank you.
What is that again?
636 by 511 are the
Okay.
dimensions, the width and height and width of the new spot.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep, excellent. So again, very easy to move things around in here, very easy to come in and edit. This pencil button will give you the edit menu that you can go in and change the name of the image if you wanted to. You can change the tag. You can even add validity dates. This is helpful. This makes this able to be scheduled on a playlist, which is going to be where you're going to be adding these to, right? You don't have to fill this out and it'll be valid always. But if you do fill it out with a specific time, date and schedule, right? So it'll only be valid to display on that playlist during these times. So again, you want to make sure if it's always going to be displayed, you want to make sure and leave these empty. If you want a specific date and this content never to show again, then by all means do this. But it doesn't delete the content from the media library. It just makes it valid to just schedule on a playlist, exactly like the title suggests.
Josh, I did want to just take 1 second to mention, I don't know how many people are going to be using tags, but I have noticed I've been in all of your folders and files over the past couple of weeks, and people do use similar nomenclature. Lots of people obviously use, fall 2019, spring 2020. I imagine if you're building things, you're going to come up with a lot of folders that are fall 2020. If you are using tags, and all of you are going to be using fall 2020, then when you search things by tags, you're going to get everybody's stuff. So if you're creating tags, like for instance, the library, maybe put LIB as fall 2020, and just find some sort of, if you're going to use tags, use some sort of naming nomenclature that's specific to you versus just the dates, because everyone's using that, and I think that's a good way to do it. But I just wanted to come up with a system that maybe we're able to keep to ourselves and keep out of other people's stuff. That's part of the honor system that we use in the digital signage system here. Thanks.
McLaughlin Center for Global Education, this is Christine. She's not in the office today. Can I take a message?
Josh is showing that he's offline.
Josh, I think you might be on mute.
Roosevelt, I'm showing that he's offline.
Yeah. Hello. I'm here.
Okay.
Back. Yeah. So sorry again. If you're looking to search by tags, right? You can add multiple tags to a piece, right? Here. Again, as Ashley was saying, you want to do a kind of individual tag, right? And if you are using date, you can use it like this. But just know that when you do search for 2020, you're going to get everybody's 2020. But if you refine that search and do 2020 in library, you'll only get the stuff that's tagged library in 2020. And I can show you how that, up here, there's a search by filter. So you can go in here and we can select 2020, right? And that'll bring up that one. But if we had multiple pieces of content tagged 2020, it would all show up below, right? And we can also do 2020 in library. So look for all tags with 2020 and library. So any content that's tagged 2020 and library, it looks together. If you use the or, it'll look for all 2020 content or all library content. So that's just a quick kind of overview on tagging, how that you can search by that. Again, you can easily turn that off and just search by use your folder structure as well. A few more items on the media library itself. If you search in the folder structure, as you see, it says search this folder, right? If you pull this out, you can search the entire media library, right? So this will look for everything in the media library up here. If you pull the folder structure and search by, you can search by folder. Another good quick tip is the card view list view. I like the list view a lot because it gives me all the information I need exposed already. But if you are a more visual person, you can go into the card or tile view here and see images and what they look like in more of a graphical representation. So if this is how you work best, you can absolutely set it up like this and get an idea visually of what you have. Or if you work best with kind of knowing this is the thumbnail and I really need to know some of these other options that are available to me, this view will give you that. You can also move any item, copy any item, or delete any item to this menu, right? So we click here, we can say apply, and we can select a new folder to move it to. Again, without having to, if you don't want to drag and drop, this is a good way to do it as well. Again, you can copy and delete items as well from here, right? And you can copy them to a new folder if you need to. This sorts by all the date. This you can sort by all dates. You can choose filters and sort by the types of content you have in your folder. Right, I just want to show the JPEG content, or I just want to show the GIF content, and it'll filter and show that in this library right here. But again, we don't need to necessarily get into all that. That's something you'll find as your own particular workflow, right? As you work through the software and learn it, and you'll find out what works best for you. The idea is that we've made Korbyt really flexible in order to accommodate a lot of different types of workflow. The last thing I want to call your attention to, and let me refresh here, is Pixabay. Now, I will show you this in another tenant because this does have a separate user agreement, and I don't want to click on behalf for your team, but I'll open up another window and access one of our internal tenants. This is again Korbyt.com. We use this internally at our company as well. It's our software. We use it for our internal communications, our internal signage. Just about everything internally. I've even used it to make business cards recently used some of the aspects like the QR code generator to add to our business cards. But in the media library, you'll see it's Korbyt's the same on our internal side as it is on your side. And you're only, you're not allowed to access ours. We're not allowed to access yours without logins, right? So that's how we keep the security. But in the media library, there is Pixabay. You'll get another user license agreement. This will allow you to get free access to high quality stock imagery, right? So you can easily go into Korbyt and search for, or to Pixabay and search for fireworks or something of that nature, and it gives you a bunch of high quality images of fireworks. You can add more, load more, and then get, depending on what it is, you can also look for, say you want to keep something about keeping hydrated, right? You may want to look for water or a water bottle, right? So again, you can download a lot of these. I mean, these are all free for you to use on your screen, on your signage. Once you click on one, you just hit save up at the top, and it will save the image to your media library. So again, very easy to get free stock imagery. Let me go ahead and download this one so we can look for it. Let's see, save this one, close. So in our root, if I look for bottle, and click on the images folder, we should have our bottle image. And there it is, ready to use. Again, we can apply the same filters, cropping. We can look at it, change any of these tags that it came in with. We can tag it there. Very, very easy to use. So you can get really good, high quality imagery right into your system if you just need a good image to show. All right. So again, that's the media library. In a nutshell, that's where you upload these images. Now that you have images uploaded, ready to use, how will you get them to screen? So we've taken the diligence to create layouts. Your content will display in a layout, right? And if we preview this, you'll be able to see where the content will show up. The content will show up right in the center here. Again, this is built for a different size aspect ratio. So if we go to content aspect ratio, this will be a majority of your screens as they sit now. Your content will show up in this large center section. So getting it to the screen is very simple. We'll end up using what's called a playlist. And your team already has a playlist set up for each one of those sides. So if we look at every playlist that you'll be able to edit and add content to will just be called the division or the department with slides at the end, right? This is the main playlist that you'll want to change items on. So if we look at one of these, again, you'll see very similar functionality. This is in the signage section, playlist tab. You can add new playlists, import new playlists, hide and show your folder structure, very similar to the way it is in the media library. And again, you can search by filters, or you can search by tags. And again, you can set up a card view or a list view. But really, what you'll want to do is click the pencil button to edit. And we can go through those other options in a second. But really, it's very simple to add content to this playlist. And this is the end of your engagement, really, because as soon as it's added to this playlist, it'll begin to show up on screen within a few minutes, right?
Now, can I ask a question? It will play in that order that you put them in?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. It will. Okay. That's what we want to make sure, because sometimes we'll have two slides and we want to make sure they're back to back. So,
absolutely. Yeah. So the order that you set them in here is the order that they'll be. Okay. On this menu, you have a few options available to you as far as what you can do. You can change the transition type between the different pieces of content on each one of these, right? You can absolutely change it. There's a ton of canned animations inside of this.
Mhm.
They're usually default to fade in, but if you wanted to change one to bounce in, you could simply click the check mark, and then we see it's changed to bounce in, right? But we'll keep it as fade in. You can set your timing here, right? So if you wanted 30 seconds on this piece and 15 seconds on this piece, or 10 seconds here, you enter 10 and hit the check mark. If you wanted to go back, you can you can do it in terms of 13, right? Or single digits, right? But we'll keep it 30 for now. And then you can easily click on this and bring up the actual item again and change anything you need to here. This is linking to the media library. And again, it opens up a new window. So we have a new window that we can close down to, and you'll see it pops up again, right? Again, you can change the name, change the size, change the start dates and end dates and any tagging here. And this last button gives you weighting. Now this all gives equal weighting distributed throughout all these pieces, which is a future product that you may want to incorporate. Again, it's something a little bit more advanced. What it does is it looks at the tags for this content. If we set it, we can set a weight of how much we want this to display. This will display more often than not, less often, right? So, and what it does is this allows the system to begin to start reading the tags that are coming and suggesting new tag content to play on this screen. Again, something probably a future implementation. You'll probably want to keep it very similar to the way it was, and just have them all cycle through at once, right?
More than likely.
Yep.
But there isn't a way to permanently link 2 or 3 or how many slides together. You just put them in the order, and that'll take care of it. Because in Simon there was a way to link. If this slide played, there was a rule that this slide would always play next, and so forth.
The way to do that would be to set it up with a piece in a clever playlist using clever content and link to a folder or something like that. So you'd have a specific folder for slides that wanted to stay together, and then you would access that folder. But really, if you want to keep them together, the easiest way to do it on this situation is just schedule them right next to each other, right? We have one main playlist in each one of those layouts, so it's not it probably won't switch away from those playlists too often. But you can again very simply add content, and this is how you'll do it. Your teams, once it's added to the media library, you'll click the plus button here, and you'll add your content. So you'll look for, you can use your folder structure here to expose the actual folder that you need to get to. And again, you can open up root folders or subfolders if you need to. So if we needed to go to English, right? And just close this, and this is all the images in the English folder, right? So to select one, we'd simply add selection, and there it is in our rotation. And again, we can simply drag and drop to move it around however we need to in this rotation. All right. Say we didn't want to have this, we can just simply remove it by the X on the top right. Again, that can happen on any piece of content. If we've made our changes, again, we'll save the playlist, and that makes sure the playlist is saved, and we're ready to schedule. We make sure there's always a schedule. And so this playlist will now play these 3 items in succession, for 90 seconds, then repeat over and over again, all the time. And so what that does is this is now linking to your layout, and it shows in that main section. So if we're to preview this, save playlist, okay, and exit, this is the CVP PA slides, right? If we go into CVVA, right? We could preview from out here and see what the playlist looks like. Again, this is going to show just what is in that playlist. So again, it's just these images cycling through every 30 seconds. All right. But this playlist is linked to that main section in the layout, and it will display with the background on screen, because that's what we're actually displaying on screen, right? That layout with all the additional side messaging, the ticker, time and date, logo, things like that.
Josh, you don't have to explain this right now, but is there a way to make the default for all of the slide links to be more like 10 seconds?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
we'll probably want that later, but we don't necessarily have to do it now with the audience, but whatever you think.
right. Yeah. So in here, and actually, I think in the set on, I believe actually, let's see, in the Clever playlist, it's actually done individually. So we will have to set them here. On regular standard playlist, you can set them individual. You can set them overall. So
I was just wondering if within the system, like it's automatically populating for 30 seconds. Is there a setting that we could put where it's automatically going to populate at 10 and we won't have to touch it?
in a different type of playlist, yes. So in here, yes, you have the ability to.
Okay. Yeah. When I'm building the players, I'll just get instructions on that and set everybody's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But really, again, once it's uploaded to this playlist, it'll display in this layout, because this layout is what's, again, it's linking to this main area. So that playlist, again, we saw black around it and everything like that. You won't see that on screen because it's actually displaying in this layout on screen. And again, this has been adjusted to fit that cable fed size, so you'll see it and it'll look a lot. It looks a little strange here, a little stretched out, but that's because it is adjusted to fit that old 4:3 size. So any questions on how to upload content, how to get it to the right? You'll go to any one of these folders, look for the slides playlist, edit it, and add your slides in.
I'm good. How about you, Norma?
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. Yep. So it's very simple. Media library, then to playlist, and then you're good to go. And they'll begin appearing on screen in the rotation that you set on that playlist. So again, everybody's on the honor system. We do recommend you access Korbyt, and just to give you a little additional help, we do have how-to videos. So again, you can always come in here as you explore Korbyt. You can access the help section. Again, these are broken down in quick and easy, digestible. None of them are really over 10 minutes long. To really just see at a glance what these different sections of Korbyt can do for you, right? Layouts, messages, builders, things like that. Again, just all the different aspects of Korbyt that are available to use. There's also the documentation section. If you really like reading instead of viewing videos, if that's your preferred method of learning, again, we have fairly step-by-step instructions on some of these, or call-outs, right? How to assign content, etc. So all this is called out in this section, in the documentation section. You all have access to KB or knowledge-based platform. Again, you can ask questions. You can see frequently asked questions, right? About Korbyt. So a lot more help readily available to you right there. And then the last section that you're able to access is called Community. And anybody with a Korbyt login can access this. And again, this is it's a community of Korbyt users. So all it is Korbyt users getting together, uploading new content that you can download and use on your system. You can access us directly. You can ask questions of us. There is a forum with different content, different discussion threads that you can look in and see what may be coming down the pipeline, and you may be able to put in a feature request. The great thing about Korbyt is it's always being updated. It's always being refreshed with new features. And because it is a cloud-based software, you always get the latest and greatest software. It's always updated for you. You never have to worry about working on old, outdated software. Every 4 to 6 weeks, we'll push an update with some new features that are coming out. And a lot of those features are based on suggestions from our clients. So you really have a direct line to us, to our development track. You can affect how the product works and even suggest changes to make the product better. So we're always interested in that feedback and looking to hear from our clients on what we could do to make the product work for you that much better.
I do have a question. This is Norma.
Sure.
What are their video specifications for Korbyt? Because we do get a lot of requests for videos that we need to post right away. And we wanted to make sure, because we have to get it up so quickly, what those specifications are.
Sure. So there's in the supported library, we do WMV, which is pretty standard Windows files, MPEG-4, movie.mov, which are QuickTime files. And again, we'll get you all the specifications. It's a lot less restrictive than the old Simon system, right? It could be any frame rate. We do ask that it be kind of, if there's a way to get a web sized video, that's usually best, because it's already been compressed down to the best viewing. And there's also ways, I'll show you a quick trick to get into on the signage section. So in layouts, you can always access something. If you wanted to create, say there's a video file, right? We can set up a new folder, or we can set up a new layout in training here. So we can add a layout. We'll call this YouTube, right? Again, this is something that y'all will eventually get into as y'all explore, but right now, the layouts are pretty much set up. All you need to do is add to that playlist, but you could easily create a layout to add content as well instead of just a regular image, right? So the layouts are our content builder piece here in Korbyt. It works like similar to any other content platform that you've built. We got a lot of powerful tools. It's a little bit of a more differentiator from most of our competitors because we have so many different elements that we can link to right off the bat. So I'll go ahead and create a layout. And again, it just brings up a simple canvas for me to use and drag and drop elements into. As you'll see, all these elements are available for us to use and manipulate. And there's a little bit of training on this as well that pre-exists. And you can also access a lot of this information directly in the help section. But you can simply just add a YouTube, right? And we'll go to, if the video already exists, right? Say they uploaded it to YouTube and they just want to push it out. Right, so we can say they wanted to put the tour of Radford on the screen, right? We'd simply, all these elements, as we drag and drop, they have a gear wheel on top. Simply edit the element and it pulls up a menu for you to manipulate the item. And this is just asking for the YouTube link right here. So we just simply and now we have the tour ready for us to use inside of and we'll simply publish this and exit. And now there's a YouTube layout that has that tour linked to it. So if we preview this layout,
but Josh, we would need to have that with the 636 by 511. Is that?
so the way videos work is it's going to keep its aspect ratio. It's not going to stretch. The video will never stretch. It's just not going to.
Okay.
So, but in any case, to add the layout to the playlist, you would simply come back to your slides, right? And you can add content. And again, we were just simply adding images, but you can add videos that have been uploaded, right? And or again, layouts that we can select. So now we have that YouTube video.
Now, does the, I guess my question still is, does a video have to be compressed to a certain size?
No.
Because most of the time it won't be a video from YouTube. It'll be someone created the video. So we don't know. We want to make sure that they have it correct when we're able to put it in right away.
Yeah. The smaller I will say this, the smaller the video, the better, the faster it'll upload and the faster it'll get on screen. But as of yet, I mean, we've had some pretty large videos on some of our clients. I'm thinking of some of the clients like Coca-Cola and things like that, where we've had lots of videos, huge videos. And there is also, once you upload videos, there is a way to convert them in the system as well. We offer and let me take you through another tenant to show you. So once you upload it, and if you get a warning kickback from Korbyt, you may get a kickback that says this is way too big. It may be a 4K video that's not compressed at all and be like gigs and gigs. So what you can do is in Korbyt, let me open up a new window.
Because Norma, didn't we have in Simon, we were told there was a threshold of how big or, you know.
Yeah, there wasn't. It seemed like we always had problems with that for one reason or another. So I can't remember what it was, but
It just seems like I remember I remember working with you guys and there was a threshold that said, oh yes, with Simon you can only go X. And I don't know, I guess you haven't found that in Korbyt yet, perhaps.
Yeah, so the videos upload to the media library just as anything else. There's no separate videos and graphics tab anymore. So that's a little bit different as well for you guys. But really, you can download a converter, right? We offer one in here. You can download the video and re-upload it, or you can download an app to your desktop. And again, the application is very simple. It's something that one of our developers has written internally. It's called Convert. And you just get your video enqueued and you choose the recommended file size and it'll export it ready for use in Korbyt.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Can you do streaming?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So that's YouTube, but we can also do was it LDash, or let me go back to the.
You can't do Facebook Live or anything, right?
If there's a web URL that we can show, we can probably get an API brought into a layout as well. Mm-hmm. Nothing's really impossible with Korbyt. It's just, a matter of, do we have the time to implement it on the PS side, or if it's something that you need to, you may have to explore and learn on your own. But again, there's lots of documentation about stuff like that and being able to link to that.
Okay, thank you.
Because you could easily, really, you can display just about any external URL as long as it's, accessible, right? If it's something like Google, we're not going to be able to display Google. Mm-hmm. But, if it's, even the Radford U web page, we can probably set up a link to that using the layouts, or in the media library itself, you can link to a URL directly. All right, so you can add a URL in here and get the title, whatever URL you want it to link to, and if there's any authentication, right, you set that up. And then really that becomes easy to add to a playlist as well.
Sounds good, thanks.
So, Ashley, to your question about video streaming. So while Korbyt supports streaming, right? So there are two protocols that it supports, and those are HLS and Dash. So you have to make sure the video encoders that you would use would have to support either of both of those protocols.
And what were those again?
HLS or Dash.
Okay, thank you.
And in the future, just in case, you know, you do want to end up pushing through like cable TV or something like that, we do also offer a cable bypass. So that means an HDMI input. So that way, not on our players, on certain players that do work with Korbyt though, you can go from your cable box directly out to that player, and we can set up a little window on your screen to show that cable television feed. Or whatever HDMI, it could be a DVD player, right? It's just a HDMI window inset on your layout.
Okay, yeah, got it. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, we really enjoy the questions and answer session. And again, the main focus of the early part of this session was to get all the content contributors comfortable with the process of uploading imagery, getting it to a playlist, and saving that playlist so it's ready to go to screen.
Are we going to talk about creating slides within Korbyt?
Sure, we can definitely get into that. So again, it'd be the layouts as your main section, and very much like I created the YouTube section, right? You just add a new layout. To me, the layout that I choose all the time is default, but we have several different types of layouts in here. You have video wall fixed, right? Fixed will give you a certain dimension size, or you can get a custom size. So we could, in essence, put a 6, right? 6, what was it, 611 or 636 by 511?
That's right.
Yep. Well, we can double check that, make sure that's something that we can add. But again, default layout is what I choose because it usually scales perfectly between a lot of different applications. So you want to select, really, you give it a name, right? So you'd say, let's give this, you can tag it if you need to. All right. We'll select our default. And I usually select the main open canvas because you can achieve all these different looks using different elements in the system. It is nice if you want to just quickly create something like this, but keep in mind these are hard divisions that you cannot break. So if we wanted to scroll this image across all of them, we couldn't do so. So again, I choose the main open one as the easiest one to work with. Nothing's set in stone. It gives you a nice blank canvas. So simply hit create. And then to create content, you'll see that this is your main canvas and your toolbar is here. The toolbar is movable. It's closable with this toggle control. So that way you can see more of the canvas. There is some main elements on here. There's your elements section that allows you to add all these elements in and compose, and it's just drag and drop to begin composing. The subscription section is if you had any data subscribed to this layout, you could import data. So we see this a lot in contact centers and meeting rooms and things of that, where they have a meeting room system that pushes data out to these screens and out to these layouts, and we're able to stylize that data and make it look appealing on screen. And then this is your element layers. Again, once we start dragging and dropping, you'll start seeing this populate as we add these elements. The gear wheel down here will open up the page settings. Now you can change the name here. You can add validity dates. Again, this makes it valid on a playlist or not. If it's nothing set, it's always valid. You can change your tags. You can select a background color if you'd like. Again, you simply just hit color, and you can select a background color, and now that's our background color. You can put in direct inputs here. So if you find a color that you like that's a little different, so let's say for this one we'll go 150, 20, and 20, and that gives us, they'll change our color as you see, changes in here. This RGBA value simply states that it's the way these colors are arranged. It's the red, the green, the blue value, and then the A stands for alpha, which means the opacity or the alpha channel. And this is currently set to 1, which is 100% opacity. If we were to change this, it would go down to, it would become less opaque, right? It would become more opaque. So whenever we do fill it in, it would show overlaid on something like a little bit transparent. You can easily add a gradient as well. So instead of if we wanted to change the image from having a plain red background, we could select a very vibrant red to black gradient, right? So now we have a background, right? Again, you can easily change that back to transparent if you wanted to by clicking transparent tab here and the check mark, or you can add a background image too. So this is how we've set up a lot of your layouts, is to have that background image, right? So again, it could easily be something else as well, right? The background image, again, you can change the way it appears here. You can do 100%, 100%, which stretches the image. You can set up to contain, which makes it contain where the image is all contained inside of the area. You set it to cover, which will expand it and cut it off, so that it fills the whole area. It scales, but it cuts off, right? And again, auto will give you the actual size of the image itself. So again, these 4 image settings appear later in the image. You'll see that when you're in the image element when you're editing. But really, we can set it to cover, and that'll do okay for right now as a background, right? And so now we still have no elements in here, so we can begin to drag and drop to compose elements. We can have an image if we wanted to, right? Another image. Now this image could be floating, right? Or you could have it, you can drag and scale it however you want. Now again, this is affected by the image size and settings found in the gear wheel up here. So edit element, again, we'll pull up a menu of editable items that you can change. You can change the image. You can add frames to the image. Again, some of these are a little bit dated, but some of them are a little bit are also nice to use, right? If you in a quick, right, for a quick frame. And these get updated constantly as well. So we can always select a frame, or we can choose none. We can change more presets in here if we wanted to, right? If we need to blur something, give it a little bit of an inverted feel or something like that. So this is, again, we can remove those presets. You can change the shape of the item here, right? So if you wanted to create something with an image that had another image inset like that, very easy to do, right? Again, you can always go back to none. You can change how the image really reacts inside the frame, and this is in concert with the other items here. So if we set it to auto and we're able to, again, manipulate where it repeats, right? So again, this is helpful if you want to create a pattern background, right? Maybe it's the Radford logo repeated over and over again, something like that. All right. So very helpful tool there. Again, you can choose no repeat and it brings it back to true. The offset, again, will position this inside the frame. So if we go 100%, you'll see it goes 100% over. And now every time I move that frame, it's always going to show up on that right axis instead of. So you can do 50 and 50, and it'll always show up dead center. All right, so no matter how large I make this frame or how small I make this frame, the image always shows up dead center. Again, more filters. You can really get into fine tuning what your image looks like this way. You can easily reset it. And then you can even add like a shadow background. So very simple. And again, this sets this. I would use a measurement called Vmin, which gives you, it's a percentage of the vertical screen. And it really allows it to scale really easily. So you'll always get the same kind of shadow going on. You can see that shadow is now there. We can change the color so you can really see it. But now, as you see, we have a image offset inset on another image, right? We can bring it in close like that. And then again, you can easily come back and change the image if you wanted to a different image, right? But I kind of like that image there. So we'll save this element. That'll save it in place, right? It's ready to go. Again, you'll see our element populate here. The element is draggable and clickable, so as you're building, keep in mind, as you're layering more items, you can, again, add a quick text element. And we can change the coloration of this a bit, right? We can also change the actual font family. We can upsize, right? And actually that color is a little bit too pale, so maybe we go to, oh, sorry. We can go to a different color if we need to altogether. We can go to blue. All right. Again, you can input direct colors here to stay on brand if you need to. You can change the background color of the item as well. So highlight this and we can select the background color. And now as you see, the text is highlighted with that background color. There's also some preset stylizations that you can bring into. So if you need to, you can come in and change this, edit this. All right. Pretty simple to use all this text elements. It's the same as any other text. You select all, change the text that you need. And again, we can go back and look at, we can even add images into text boxes as well, right? So very helpful in creating articles and things like that to, if you wanted to show on screen. But yeah, very easy to do. You can easily remove the image if you wanted to. You can change the height and width, right? You can change the shape of the image. You can change the alignment, right? So ways to get in there and really kind of start fine tuning how you create content. Again, this is just two of the elements, right? So we'll close that and we'll publish here. Publish makes it ready for screen, ready to schedule to a layout, to a playlist. Saving just saves your progress. So if I were to go in here, my publishing would make it, like I said, ready to go. But as soon as I edit it, it becomes a draft mode. So anything that's scheduled on screen, if you're editing a live layout, it will play the last layout that was known to exist as a published. So the last published copy of that layout. But really, once you set it to draft mode or edit mode, it'll stay in draft mode until you hit publish. You hit save, it'll just save your progress, and that's good if you're just picking up where you left off, wanting to work through something before you get it ready for screen. So you can always preview your work here as well. This is the preview of the builder, right? So you may need to come back and adjust a few items. We recommend that you set up a 2-screen, maybe have this preview open on one item and on one screen. And I'll mimic that here. So you can actually see your edits as they take place live. So if I were to go in here and move this, I can get an idea of how that's going to show up right on screen. So very helpful tool as well, the preview button that is inside, that is on the toolbox, the toolbar itself. All right. And then again, you're free to explore additional images. The video image will link to video items. Again, this is your media library. There's the streaming dash and HLS that Roosevelt referred to, as well as the live TV HDMI pass-through, right? So again, that'll give you an HDMI window that you can put output depending on the player that you have, right? But media library will link directly to the media library and any videos that are in there. Currently there is none. So again, easy to remove the item here. If you don't like it, you can also trash the item or delete it through this elements palette. So if we don't like it here, we can delete and it'll give us a confirm. Oh, I don't want to delete that. Let's keep that. All right. You can lock the element down here as well, in case, so that way it doesn't move. If you like the positioning, you don't want it to move, right? You can lock it down and nobody can grab it and move it around. All right. And as soon as we unlock it, we can go back and change it around, move it around. If you ever get lost and have a lot of items on the palette, on the builder, you can always find out where it's at by hitting this locator as well. And you can even change the names of these, right? You can say this is your text box, right? This is your image. All right. So, and that's just typing in there and hitting enter at the, once you finish your type, hit enter and it stays. All right. So we'll save our progress here. And as you said, and again, whenever I save it, you'll see it says saved as a draft. Again, draft mode is not ready to go to screen. So that's good because we're still working on this. We're not wanting to publish this to a playlist. If it was on a playlist, it would, as we're working on it, it's really not gonna show up. It'll show up to the last version until you publish this again. But again, you can see there's lots of different pieces of content elements in here. There's a carousel that can link multiple items together. This may be a way to do it as well, but Ashley, to keep multiple items together. But remember that this will have to be its own, its own piece, right? So it'd have to be a large layout with just the carousel in it. And then you can go in and click multiple items, right, to display at once.
That would go on its special playlist that you could add to. You can have multiple playlists in your layout. And if you wanted to something linked together, just make it its own playlist and then add that in addition to your regular playlist in the layout.
So in here, I would say that you would have just one carousel element, right? And link all your images together on that. So really the carousel element, right? You can go and add elements, multiples. You can add up to 15, right? Pieces of media.
Right.
Or external URL, and you can easily change the timeouts here. And you can even add more pieces of content. And so now it'll cycle through all these, right? And you can change the order as well if you need to.
Okay, great.
So that carousel, again, you can, once this layout's published, you add this layout to the playlist that you want it to be in. And now you have a full screen carousel cycling through 15 images, right? You would just make sure and in the playlist, schedule it for the length of, if you had, 15 images at 10 seconds a piece, that's 150 seconds that you'll need to schedule the actual content for, right? So once this is, because it'll play through all these, right? And then it'll go to the next one. But in future, there's also mapping elements in here that can be used to create wayfinding maps, give you route to route, end to end, endpoint to endpoint routing and location finding. And just give you an idea, these are done with Illustrator files, so you can easily have and if I was to say this element again, let's close this off or hide that. And again, you can see I can hide individual layers as well to the hide, the little I button here. So I'll make sure that's wayfinding enabled. Yep. Okay, save, publish. And if I preview this, I can go from, let's go from reception floor 1. Let's go, although I can see the cafe, I still want to make sure that's the route that I want to take. So go. And again, from the front of the reception desk, it'll take you around the route, the desk over to the cafe. So again, all these, you can do multiple floors as well. And you can set up different categories, right, to search for. Reception floor 1, reception floor 2. Right. So that's, again, future-proofing your solution, right? In case you ever want to go the route of having some end-to-end wayfinding on the campuses, it's the ability is there to do so with the system. Again, you can easily remove here. Twitter, again, we really recommend you, if you're going to use Twitter, try to use a social media aggregator instead of Twitter and display that as a website. But you can link to Twitter here and it'll give you authorization, right? I'm not going to authorize RMG on this account, but you can put in a university account and monitor Twitter in tweets or in, you know, the feed format. So it's a scrolling feed. You can add calendar elements. Again, this element will give you a Google Calendar. And again, you'll link to your Google Calendar or your regular Outlook calendar, right? And it'll, again, redirect you to sign into your company's site and give permission, but that's how those elements work.
So
and again,
it's not just an individual tweet, it's someone's actual account?
you can set it up, it's based on account, right? So it'd probably be, you'd want to set it up as an EDU, the Radford main EDU account. And then you can see the individual tweets that Radford puts out, or you can see what's on their feed. You can select either one.
Okay.
But really, there's other items. There's a, you know, we support Twitter, but at times Twitter does change the way it works on the back end. So we really recommend that you use something like.
We don't have the. We're not going to be able to use an aggregator. It's just,
yeah, something like this.
We don't have somebody to man that to make sure it's what we want all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's, again, just the options are there available should you ever expand into that, right?
Okay.
We have charts and graphs that you can use with data. And again, you'll see it pulls out, and this will link to data. But there's several different charts and graphs canned in the system that you can use. And again, it's interactive as well. So if you have these on desktops or touch screens or something like that, you can really kind of drill into that data a little bit further. There's a clock element that you can choose, either the regular clock, or you can choose an analog clock, digital clock as well. And so that gives you the timepiece really easily. All right. Again, you can just simply start removing these. The ticker is exactly what it says, right? This is just a custom ticker text. You can add it. And you can change the way it appears. Yours is linked to the RSS element, so that's something that your team won't never have to update. But again, just so you know that there's a ticker that you can, should they ever want to add an additional screen with a ticker, you can change the font size, the style, lots of different aspects here. The button element is mainly used for interactivity, but it does have a set of icons in there that you can use to manipulate. So you can add icons to your screen should you need to, right? We'll say brightness high is our icon. We'll change the background blue, and we'll delete the text out of here. Again, you see it's a button, so it's highlighting. So there's different states that we can change the color on. Right, and we can also change the color of the actual image itself. So I can go back here and select a right. We can even change the size. And again, you'll see that vmin size again, very ubiquitous throughout Korbyt. It's just a sizing that is friendly for web-based applications. Again, it makes it scale. And it's based on the, again, the vertical minimum of the screen. So we can publish this, and we can, again, preview where we're at, either through here. All right, and this is just a preview. I can't go in there and edit anything. It's pretty much what it'll look like on screen, right? Or I can edit and preview through here. Now this preview again is your live build. Some elements will not work on this preview. They will not show up, but they will show up on the final screen. So we ask that you preview in several different places just to make sure that your content's showing up the way you want it to, because I know for sure the playlist element does not cycle through content when viewed on the layout preview from Builder, but when you're in the layout itself, in the layouts tab, they'll display, right? So I'll show you that the example of that right now. If we preview from here, we should be able to see the slide cycling through here, right? If we're to edit this element, and preview through here, we don't see we just see that that's a playlist element, right? So the two different previews, we do recommend you check it on both places. If you see it on the Builder preview and internally like this, and you're like, I don't know, something's wrong, check the other preview. It could be just fine. It's just so happens that element doesn't show up in the actual Builder preview. So again, going back to, most of the elements they're there for you to go and explore. A few more things about elements in general, right? So there's multiple menus when you open this gear wheel. There's the properties. This will change the actual properties of the frame itself, right? Not the internal contents, but mainly the frame. So you can change the height based on percentages or pixels. I can change it to 500 px. And now we'll go 500 pixels tall, right? And that equates to 46% of the height, right? Same thing with offset. If I wanted to go directly, I wanted to go 150 pixels from the left, I would simply hit 150 px, and that equates to 7%, 7.8% left, right? So you can snap to grid, and that'll give you a little bit of a little bit of a snapping to go to. It'll automatically size a little bit easier. And once you start having multiple items, right, you'll see it start snapping together. See that where it kind of clicks to the top, right of that, and lines itself up nicely. You can also align multiple items by shift clicking and going to the advanced tab up here. The advanced tab up here doesn't do anything to the elements. You have the same amount of elements. It just hides the names to expose a little bit more on this page, so you can get triggers. Again, these are mainly for data, to color code that data. Make sure if something happens, the data turns from red to green, or vice versa, to allow people to know the status of that particular data point. Again, quick actions are it's very much the same as interactivity. So you can, if it's something that you want to click on an element and hide another element, this is how you would do this. Again, most of your screens are non-interactive. All of them are, so you won't really need to use that so much. But again, that's in this triggers element piece here. There is CSS and JavaScript available, so you can directly affect any element on screen, or create animations and things like that. If you know that these types of languages, these types of coding languages. So again, it's based on web technology. So anybody that has a web-based experience could really get in here and manipulate a lot more than what the UI allows you to do as well. So this little console will show you if there's any items that are happening, any bugs, anything that should happen, and it's mainly used again to check if the data is coming in correctly, or there's something wrong with the content. It'll tell you right there. This display controls will set you up for different displays, right? So you can set up for different sizes, right? These are all 1920 by 1080, but you can set a custom size as well. So you can see what it would look like on that size screen. You can make it responsive, so that way when this window pops out, the layout becomes the size of the display becomes the size of the actual. As you see, it's the edges are moving, the items are moving. This is the entire layout, and as I move it around, the items jump around. It's very similar to the way websites work, right? When you view a website in portrait or landscape, they'll kind of resize to fit. Again, it's a little different with digital signage because, as you can see, sometimes if we're going very extreme from portrait to landscape, some things may overlap. Luckily, you're not doing that much of an extreme jump, so it shouldn't really affect anything too much. But again, you can just always jump back to those regular size, and you can quickly change it to portrait if you need to, just to see what it looks like in a portrait view. So you can also expose some rulers, right? Should you need to line things up just right on the percentages, right? And you can set up, you can even set your own grid system if you wanted to. All right, so now I have a nice little guide that I can follow to add my content in. All right, okay, so I want that here. And this one stays in this section, right? And so a little bit more about the properties box. You can affect the background color of the frame itself. You can change the opacity. Again, this is a button, so the background color is set in the actual element, but some elements allow multiple background colors. So like an image, if I don't pull an image into it, I can affect the background color by going to the properties. And now I have a color block on screen that I can use and manipulate, right? You can change the opacity on that as well. Bring it up or down. So again, you can have multiple sections starting to come together, and you can rearrange your elements as well in this layer palette. So let's preview where we're at with that. And again, this advanced tab allows you to change the height and the width and the offsets as well. The Z order is where it aligns in the palette, right? So you can easily affect that by changing it here as well. Bringing items up or down. You can anchor to certain elements, so that way those two elements move together. Very nice in case you're wanting to set up like something like this ticker bar here. If we wanted to move it to the top, instead of moving each individual element, we can move both of them. And you can even add animations to things. So the CSS class animations, right? We'll say fade in, let's do bounce in. So now if I preview this, you see that bottom bar bounce back up in, you can refresh the preview. So you can do that to any element, right? You can set up any animation like that. And again, there's also in the advanced tab, something called magic animations as well. So if you were to set multiple animations upon each different piece of tab, each different element, you can set and individually fine tune those. But really, that is pretty much the extent of Builder and how to start building and composing content, right? So it's kind of like a PowerPoint slide, right? A little bit more advanced. There's a lot more tabs. You can integrate with Slack, Teams, WebEx, Zoom, right? So any one of these, the instance we gave the other day was say the dean of the school wants to give an address to the entire campus, right? You can set up a Zoom meeting, put that Zoom meeting in here, and have him address the whole campus on your digital signage system just by scheduling this layout to a screen. So lots of items to explore, lots of elements to explore. I think the main ones that you'll really get a main use out of are going to be ones like YouTube, the video element, the carousel, the QR code. All right, because the QR code generator, if you wanted to send somebody to Radford University from their phone, right, you'd simply come in here, edit element, bring in Radford U, right? Let's go to, is it radford.edu?
Yes.
Yep. So we'd go in here. Let's make sure. There we go. Got to have the HTTPS in there. But yeah, there you go. So that QR code would be able to generate and send them, you know, somebody clicks on that with their phone, takes an image of that, it'll send them right to the Radford EDU main webpage. So cool ways that if you're going to link to, maybe you want to link to an article online, right? You're creating a slide. You want to put a little bit of information on there for a quick read, but a more extended read. You can easily add a text box here. It says for more. Right, and there we go. We can, again, change the text, enlarge it however we need to. And then it will send you over to, give, you know, a little bit of instruction, a little call to action, scan here for more info, and they can get that web page access directly to their phone. Yeah, excellent. Any questions on the layout builder? Lots of really cool functionality in this. And again, once you publish, it's ready to go. I will caution there is something called sparse mode on this right here. And what that does is if we click sparse mode, it'll remove all the fonts, all the stylized fonts and everything like that, and try to make the layout run as small as possible. This is good in terms of making, and a lot of times we use this in, again, data situations because they want to get the data as fast as possible to the screen. So that sparse mode kind of cuts down on all the stylizations that we've added and makes it a real lean layout to go ahead and push through really fast. Because it, you know, this is dealing with internet traffic and things like that. So the content, you know, the larger the content, the longer it'll take to get to the endpoint.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing around a lot with this.
Yeah, this is, yeah, this is a lot. Again, Ashley, you're familiar with the Simon system.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot easier to use as far as building content and making sure it looks the way you want it to show up.
Well, this looks so much better. I mean, it's less work for a better quality, in my opinion.
Absolutely. The stuff that we can, that took us, you know, 4 or 5 hours to build, we can build in an hour in Korbyt, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. So, and as you saw, even now, this is not the best layout, right? It still needs a lot of refinement, but within 30 minutes, we were able to start composing something and make it ready for screen, right?
Right. Very nice.
So again, publish and exit. Just we're done here. We can save this as a training. Again, it's in that training folder. You have the YouTube layout. You have the training layout to go through, and you can reverse engineer. You can pick apart, play with those. Just a few more items here on the training section. I mean, on the actual layout section. You can clone layouts. So very easy once you get it set up. Oh, I like that training layout. I'm gonna go ahead and clone it and give it a new name. Right. And now we have a clone of that layout. It's in draft mode. If we enter it to edit, you'll see it's an exact clone of what we did. To get it back to publish mode, all you got to do is publish and it's ready to go. Or you can manipulate it, change it however you want, and publish it. Again, very helpful if you got items that you've stylized and like the way it looks, and then you can just clone and change the text, right, or change the image, right? So similar to PowerPoint, right? You would just simply go in here and I like this. I'm going to add a new just change the image to where it's at, and etc. Right? And again, if we look at our elements palette, we still have a lot of elements hidden in there, and so right, we finally got it the way we want it. We can go back in there and edit and change this image to the one we want. All right. So again, easy to hide all these things again to get what you really want, and you can delete them. So that's our clone layout. Again, something very easy to do. Once you get a layout designed the way you want, clone it, and you can just keep making copies and copies and copies. Same thing with here, you can archive. This is a great way to do this. You can get a layout set up the way you want, and then so in case it ever gets messed up, before you unleash it onto the world, you can export a copy of it, and it'll come down and begin to download for you. And so now you have a zip copy of that. Keep that zip folder in your archive, and then when the time comes, it's very simple to add a layout, and then look for the import layout. Simply either drag and drop or choose through your file. Right, mine went to my downloads, and if I were to go by type, let's see, pretty sure it went to the downloads. Oh, that's the documents folder, that's why. There we go. So there's our layout that we just downloaded. I can open that and pose in here. Again, you'll want to delete the old messed up copy before you re-import the new one. Again, easy to trash, easy to preview from here, and easy to change the information about it, the layout name, the tag, and if it's valid on a playlist, right? And then again, scheduling these is the same as you would any other slide, right? You go into the add content, and then instead of images or videos, you just make sure and click layouts, and then you have your layout ready to schedule.
So
it's funny.
And I'm just making this clear for everyone, because in Simon, when you would add something to a playlist, you'd have to save the playlist and then publish the layout. If once you put it into the playlist and save that, then it is on your display and it is on the monitors going. There's no extra steps.
Yep.
So I like that. I hope you guys will too.
Excellent. Well, I know we got probably about 15 minutes left, just about. So we can kind of open it up to questions. Anybody have any thoughts or concerns? Like to see anything?
Or just Norma and me?
It's really for anybody that has a question on the system, how we want to update it. You can, Ashley, you can kind of, either curate or kind of.
I've told people to send questions to me, but I haven't gotten much today. But yeah, if anybody wants to chime in, feel free. Oh, I did want to, regarding the training videos, the video from Tuesday, I didn't load properly into the Teams, and I just want to make sure that gets addressed, and that this one I think is the one that most people are going to need today. Just make sure that that's in a format we can look at.
Absolutely, we'll get those, make sure they're able to view, and we'll send them in one or two links for you to download.
Great.
Awesome. But yeah, very simple to use system. The way we set it up is going to work really good, I think, for your team, because you just, again, for the most part, if you're just adding images, it's 2 steps: media library, playlist, save and publish, save playlist, and you're good to go. And then if you want to come back and say, oh, this is out of date, I want to remove it, just open that same playlist and click the X's on the upper right. Very simple.
Ashley, this is Debbie. I kind of indicated to you that it's hard for Norma and I to ask some questions today because we have had so many interruptions now that things are getting swamped over here.
Right.
But I know that one of the things that, and you may have addressed this already, so I sincerely apologize, but one of the things that we talked about is as, you know, career services may send something out to everybody that they want posted, and we could post it on the main system slides playlist, but then we only post things for a certain period. And so if we're using the tagging or if we're using some other thing that it displays on everybody else's TVs, when we take it down, that was my concern, because we have so much that posts on the main TVs across campus. We have to use a time limit for a lot of stuff to make sure that it can display. So I guess, I don't know if that was answered.
It wasn't.
Okay. So that's my question. I don't know if the tagging is the best way to go. If it's sent to the main system, to not have it have to also be sent to everybody else for their own building TVs as well. Our TVs are in all of the buildings, but they have their own individual systems in each of the buildings as well, a separate TV going. And so to avoid having to do that multiple posting by everybody, I'm not sure how to avoid that if we have something that can only post for 2 weeks, but they want to have it for a month.
Sure. So the way we would do that is what we're going to probably end up doing, and Roosevelt, you and Ashley can correct me, but I think the solution was to have a overarching main playlist for all that the main campus communications, right? Or whatever overarching communications that need to go on all. And with those layouts, we can add multiple. So if I was to look at this layout, right, I could go in here and add multiple playlists to that layout. So that playlist can be curated, one playlist scheduled everywhere, and still cycle through all the different screens. And that way it'll only be updated one place, and you won't have to update your screens. Again, we can add in this element right here, we can add another playlist that would be the main campus communications.
Yeah, call it campus.
CSAT main content,
well,
right?
yeah,
Something
CSAT is its own.
Yeah.
But
I
again,
to create that, I mean, if you think that's the way to do it, we haven't created just a playlist that goes everywhere.
Right, correct.
We operate in silos. I think we had thought about doing that in tags, but if we do that, is my understanding that once you put I call it the start date and end date. I forget what your nomenclature is in Korbyt. But once a message has those start and end dates, and I guess if you import it into your playlist, can you change the dates on it, and that will only affect your playlist, or will that affect every playlist where that slide is going?
So if it's one playlist that's getting scheduled everywhere, then the settings on that playlist are universal, right? If it's multiple playlists, then you can individually set that.
Okay, so what's the best way to import one set of slides to multiple playlists so that they can be edited according to when they want to have more control over their own feed?
Yeah, so that in that case, I would do, if you're depending on the content, right, I would set it up as a folder link, right? So what would happen is in here, we set up a playlist, right? And some of these can actually do that. I'll show you in the training, right? And this one, So you could absolutely have your, or even in the other one, right? Let's go back to actually set it up on a CVPA, right? Let's go. So in here on your slides, I would add a rocket ship that says folder. And then you could select a folder to add content to, right? So if it's the university relations, right? Whatever's in that folder is going to be added to the screen, right? So this will be, you'll set this up universally on every playlist, right? And then whatever's in that folder gets played on all those screens. And at the individual playlist level, they can come in and affect how long they want the content to show for.
So really, the only people who would be able to do that would be somebody to do the folder and put it on each playlist is going to be somebody at a tenant level, because people that are at administrator level are only able to impact their playlist, correct?
The admin should be able to do this as well. Though content contributors will not be able to really affect this, I don't think.
But my understanding, so if we're going to set it up, and we've talked about this, to where who's impacting the main playlist that goes across campus, university scheduling office is responsible for that. So we're going to set it up to where myself and Norma are the two, and the tenants will also have the ability, but myself and Norma are the only two that can impact what are coming onto the main playlist. And say with Chubbs, Carrie Benson and whoever she has over there, they're the only ones who can impact what is on the Chubbs playlist. I shouldn't be putting stuff onto the Chubbs specific playlist. So unless I'm a tenant, which even then I would be talking to Carrie about what's going on to the Chubbs playlist versus the main playlist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that's all set up with your user groups and making sure that those are accessible via user groups. And Roosevelt, again, I don't know how that's set up on this, or how you can actually determine to set that up.
Set up user groups, and I'm going to put I'll start with the information that I have, and as we're moving along, now that we can add more folks to each feed, I can add more to the user groups. But for each feed, I'm planning on putting in a user group. And then of locked people that can only get into that, and then in addition to that, the tenants can get in. But basically, pretty much all of the users are going to be the administrator or administrative. I forget the name for that.
The tenant, the administrator, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So most everybody here is going to be an administrator. I'm trying to keep the tenant group small, but I'm maybe. University relations, we might have a rep from there that's on the tenant group.
So, in essence, if you wanted to create the single playlist across everything, you could easily do that, and then you can create a playlist for corporate CVPA, and they can change their own corporate timeouts here, right? Or you could do it within the main slide here, and then lock down the folder, right? So in here, what you would do on your media library is you would lock down that main folder, right? Whether it's university relations or something like that, to only you and Norma or whoever else was going to be the main, right? We go back into the multimedia library here, root folder, and you see the locks here, right? So wherever your main content is, right, you would lock that by your user group and say that it's only you or tenant admins or whatever, right? You'd set up a specific user group for that. And that way, any content that's added to that content can't be accessed, but that folder can't be accessed by anybody outside that group. So if it's on every screen, the content is always going to be the same, but they can change the timing of that content, right? That makes sense? So in the actual playlist, right, when we go back to that, right in here, that one folder would be linked into all the different playlists, right? Folder is, if it was university.
It's career services. Go up top. That's, I just like, yeah, that one.
Okay.
That's, I don't know, there's nothing in there yet, but that's typically from Wednesday.
Okay, and then again, for them to edit it, they can choose the timeouts between each piece of content, how many they want to show at a time, right? And they can choose the default transition between each one of those pieces. All right, so they simply add, and again, you're going to have this for that career services linked to that folder on every playlist. And that way, they can't add content to that career services folder in the media library. Only you can, or Norma, or whoever you give access to, right? So that content's always going to be just the content that you're able to access. They can't delete it, they can't remove it, but they can change the timing of it, right? They can come in here and say, I want it to show all, or I want it to show none, or I want it to show,
Or
you know, 3, 4.
The date specifically is what we're talking about.
Yeah, so in here, they can even go in here and change the time, right? Date and time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do a date range.
That's good.
So they could, because say that we put up 8 slides for career services, and we put it into that folder because Ashley's given us it to where it comes to us initially, and then we put it in the folder to where it disperses out to all the other buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And then each building will have the ability to say, yes, I want to actually show it, or I want to show 5 of the slides or 3 of the slides, and I want to show it for a week, or I want to show it for a month, or whatever. They can then make the decision on how they want to show it versus the career services having I could be wrong, but I feel like career services is one of our big ones who do send to everybody and would like it posted to everybody, and everybody wants to share the information. I think that that's one of the ones that takes a lot of time of everybody to be doing that.
Well, to be clear, not everybody takes the career services slides. Some people are, generous enough to add it to their feed. It's not mandatory.
Right. And that's why I want it to be able to be a decision by each building on what they're displaying and what they're not displaying, because that's their building's TV. So they should be able to have the choice once we put it into the folder.
It sounds like it's something we can customize.
Yep, I would set it up like this, and then if they don't want to show any of it, they can just hit, show none, right? Show 0 here. Should it be able to hit 0, 1? Or they can choose to hide it, right? Hide all. Right, that's actually the way they should do it. Hide. And if there's no content in the folder, it'll skip over that folder. Right? So if career services is empty for any amount of time, or they just don't have any content and it's empty, it'll skip right over it and go back to the other, content in succession, right?
Right.
So yeah, you can get really granular using this kind of folder structure. And again, you can lock it down on your end to where only the people in charge of that folder are adding content to it, but all the groups here have the ability to choose whether I want this folder to show up or I don't want this folder to show up, or I want them to show up for 5 or 6 seconds or whatever. But all that content in the folder is curated by the team responsible for it, right?
Correct.
So that's how I'd accomplish that right there. And again, you can do date, you can do time, right? You can select the date range, time range, right? From 12:30 to 1 a.m., right?
There you go.
And you can keep adding additional, right? You can do dates, right? So I want to do a date range, right? From this week to this week to this week, right? And anything you add here, you just want to hit add up here, and it'll change the way this career services ones work. So we hit add. We don't need that one, so hit add. And now if we look back at our items here, we see that our scheduling is there. We can remove them here if we don't want to have that, right? Again, to access it, you'll hit the content button and just set date or time. And this can be done for multiple folders, right? So if there's another one, right, like, right, and we go to folder university relations, right? Is that if that's one of them,
Yes.
right? And we can, again, this is on the playlist level that CEVPA can affect on how they want this to show up, right? But as long as you schedule it there, it's something that they can change and decide if they want to show it or not. Simply by clicking that show or hide. So does that kind of, I think that really kind of makes the solution work the way you're expecting, I hope.
Does that help, Debbie?
Yeah, I think that would answer it if, and it might be a conversation that I don't know if you want to have conversation with the other areas to make sure that that would work for them, but I think that's a better solution than the tagging, because the tagging concerned me doing it that way.
Yeah, I like this too. Yeah, I will. We'll find time to regroup after I catch my breath and get this.
No, I understand. We've talked about that. I completely understand.
Yeah. No, we'll regroup and get this together. But yeah, I think once everybody gets trained and going, I think that's a conversation we should have to try to get that settled. I think will be good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I know we're coming up at the end of our time together. So I just want to make sure everybody got everything they kind of needed out of this training. Really, your system and your solution is really set up really easily to kind of just update that content and add new content to the screens. We will make this training available to you after the fact, along with the training earlier in the week. And I'm sure Ashley will have more conversations as we finalize this implementation. But we're excited to have y'all on Korbyt, and really we think it's going to be a much better solution than even the Simons system was previously.
I agree. Josh, if you have a couple minutes, could you just hang one-on-one or with Roosevelt with me after?
I actually have something right now, but
Okay,
Roosevelt may be able to schedule. If not, we can look for early afternoon, sometime early afternoon.
Well, I'm the rest of my day I'm available, so let me know your earliest time and I can accommodate.
Sure. And Roosevelt, if you want to stick around, I definitely have to kind of jump to another meeting. So
Yeah.
I will. Yep. And
I also have another meeting scheduled, which
Okay.
a minute late.
Well, guys, thank you very much. Well, I definitely appreciate it.
absolutely. So
Look forward to talking to you soon.
Sounds great.
thanks, Ashley. And we'll make this recording available.
Thanks again.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.